Hello again, my DIY loving friends, and welcome to Medicated Housewife DIY, where crafting and mental health come together. In today's video, we're diving into the holiday spirit with high-end holiday decor projects that won't break the bank. From Dollar Tree aisles to your living room, watch as we transform simple items into beautiful holiday decor. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more budget-friendly DIY projects. Now, what are we waiting for? Let's go DIY together. For this DIY, we are making some knitted cord like this one that I've made right here, using mostly Dollar Tree yarn and some others that I had in my stash. I've got this thicker wire that is easily bendable by hand on Amazon, and I will link it for you in the description box below. We're going to be inserting the wire into the knitted cord through the middle of the cord and then shape the wired cording into mini trees. And since I still have a ton of that yellow tracer wire in my hoarder's basement, I will be using that wire to do this as well. And just a quick note here, if you don't want to make your own knitted cord like I'm doing here, I will drop a link below for some pre-made knitted cord that you can use to insert the wire into. I chose to make my own cord using the yarn I had on hand. To make the cord, I'm using this mini knitting mill from Prim, that's P-R-Y-M, and I will link this one for you below, but there are other mini knitting mills that are less expensive and pretty much do the same thing, but this one attaches to a desk or a table to make using it easier. It also comes with a weight to weigh down your cord on the bottom to keep the knitting mill running smoothly. Now, this isn't really a knitting mill tutorial, but I will be showing you how I did this, starting with this dark green yarn that I got at Dollar Tree. First, I stick the end of the yarn down into the middle of the mill until it comes out of the bottom, and instead of using the weight that came with the machine, I prefer using this plain old chip clip to weigh down the finished cord as we go. Now, the way we start the knitting is we loosely keep my other hand on the yarn that we're using, and I slowly turn the knob. And for the beginning, for that first rotation, we grab the yarn with that first hook, as you can see right here. But we're going to skip the second hook, tucking the yarn behind it. And then we let the third hook grab the yarn, but we're going to skip the fourth hook again, tucking that yarn behind it. After that first rotation, we're going to let all four hooks grab the yarn, and I start slowly and continuously just turning the handle of the mill, letting all the hooks grab the yarn. My technique for this is to start turning slowly until I see the finished cord come out of the bottom of the machine, and then I gradually turn a bit faster. I also find that giving the cord a little tug on the bottom where that weight is, as you see me doing several times, helps keep everything running smoothly and avoid knots. As you can see, the finished cord that is coming out of the bottom of the mill, that's what we want, and we can then speed up our turning on that handle to make more cord. So once I feel like my cord is long enough and I have enough of it, and just a note here, I didn't really measure anything, I eyeballed everything. There are no rules here. So when the cord is done, to end it, I cut the yarn off the skein of yarn, and I keep turning that handle of the mill until all my little loops slide off those four hooks and the whole thing slides through the middle tube and out of the bottom. We need that open end of the cord to stick our wire into. I cut a piece of tracer wire from my basement, and I begin inserting it into the cord, smoothing the cord as I go along and making sure I don't make any holes in that cording where the wire can then poke through. And I just have to say, the whole thing is vaguely reminding me of making homemade sausage. I don't know why. I don't know if any of you can relate. Maybe some of you know what I'm talking about, or maybe I'm just hungry. I don't really know. When I get the wire to reach the closed end of the cord, I then unravel my open end of the cord a little bit that's on the other side. I'm going to use this yarn needle to thread the long piece of yarn that I just unraveled, and I'm going to thread right through the four loops at the opening of the cord, as you can see me doing right here. And then I'm going to pull that yarn through the four loops of cord to close up that side of the cord. And I trim that excess yarn piece with the scissors, and now I have this very nice green knitted flexible piece of yarn. I grabbed a foam cone from Dollar Tree and I began wrapping the wired cord around the foam cone to make a tree shape, winding it around to the form like a coiled spring or like a slinky toy or something like that. When I take it off the cone, I reshape it a little with my hands so that it will stand up straight on its own. I had this wood star in my stash and I will link it for you below. I use a dab of hot glue and then I attach it as a topper to my knitted green tree. The next knitted cord that I'm going to make is using this light kind of sage green yarn, also from Dollar Tree. We are doing it the exact same way as the first. The yarn goes into the hole in the middle of the knitting mill. I slowly crank the handle so that the first hook grabs the yarn, skip the second hook, grab the yarn with the third hook, and skip the fourth. Then we begin hooking the yarn with all 4 hooks. Gradually speeding up the turning of the handle until I see my cord coming out of the bottom of the mill. Then I can really turn the handle full speed until my cord is the length that I want. And again, I didn't measure it, I just eyeballed it. So once that cord is long enough, I cut the yarn and turn the handle until all 4 of those loops slide off the hooks and the whole thing goes through the bottom of the knitting mill. Using another piece of my yellow tracer wire, I begin inserting the wire into the open end of the cord the same way as we did before, slowly smoothing the cord around the wire. And on this one, my wire was a bit shorter than the piece of cord that I had, which is no big deal. We're going to cut that knitted cord wherever we need to, and then we just unravel the cord a little so that we can use the needle going through the 4 loops to pull tight and close that cord up on the side that we cut. And then we're going to do that whole thing again with the needle on the side that we started with to close that up. And then I take my bendy wired light green cord. I'm going to shape it around the foam cone again like the previous one. And again, I'm going to be using my hands to hand shape it so that it will stand up straight after we remove it from the foam cone. When it stands up on its own without falling over, I grabbed another one of those wood stars and I hot glued it to the top of my light green knitted tree. I had already made a bunch of this heather gray cord from earlier, just like the other ones that I made, so I figured I'd make a tree out of this one too. I insert my tracer wire, and at the point that I reach the end of that piece of wire, I cut that really long piece of cording and I just close up both of the open sides of the cording the same way as I did before. I use that same foam cone to shape this heather gray cord around it and then shaping it by hand after I remove it from the cone so it stands up on its own. This one is a little smaller than the green trees, but that works perfectly for us. I glue another wood star topper at the top of the gray heather tray. I also had this thinner beige yarn in my stash that I knitted another long cord with, but this time I cut a piece of the bendable aluminum wire I got on Amazon, and I'll link it below for you. I insert the aluminum wire into the beige knitted cord, and I do have to be a little bit more careful with this aluminum uncoated wire because it's much more prone to poking through and making a hole in the beige cord. Just be aware of that and go slow. I did cut the beige cord when I reached the end of the piece of wire, and I unravel the cut end so I can close it up with the yarn needle, and I do that on both the cut side and then also on the beginning side of the beige cord. I used that same foam cone to wrap the beige cord around, making it an even smaller little knitted tree. Then I hot glued another wood star for the top of that beige tree. I also made a metallic gold cord out of this really thin gold metallic thread I had in my stash. Because it is so thin, the cord is much looser and much more opened, as you can see right here. And I'm using a piece of the aluminum wire again for this, but this goes much slower because the combination of the metal wire going into the open weave of the gold cord makes it challenging not to make any holes with the wire, but I do go slow, and I end up really scrunching up the gold cord on this wire so that it's less see-through and that aluminum wire isn't visible in the end. I did close up the open end with the yarn needle through the 4 loops like the others, and I used this decorative wood tree as a mold to shape my gold wired cord around into a smaller tree shape. And I readjusted it with my hands when I removed it from the wood tree form so that it would stand up on its own. For this gold metallic tree, I wanted my tree topper to be a little sparkly, so I used this liquid chrome paint pen, which I will link for you below, to paint the wood star a shiny silver. And once dry off camera, I hot glued it to the top of this little mini gold tree. And these are all 5 of my knitted cord Christmas trees. I think these little mini trees are adorable and really a perfect way to use up your extra yarn that you may have lying around. These trees look great on a tiered tray or even in a bunch as part of a holiday centerpiece. They're versatile, and the yarn makes them a cozy but classic piece of holiday decor. For this next DIY, I got this Sugar and Cream brand ombre colored cotton yarn from Amazon, and I'll link it for you below. You can use any yarn you might have lying around or from Dollar Tree for this. I am going to wrap this long piece of cardboard with the yarn, as you see me doing right here. Once the cardboard is thoroughly and evenly wrapped, I use a scissors to cut all the yarn directly up the middle of that cardboard so that I'll have a line of these evenly sized pieces of yarn. And next, I got a roll of this 20 gauge thin wire that's just a tiny bit thicker than the floral wire from Dollar Tree, and I'll link it for you below. I cut a piece that's a little longer than double the length of my long line of yarn pieces that I cut, and I fold the wire in half. I grabbed this old wood handle from a Dollar Tree foam brush. I always keep my handles. I'm going to stick the brush handle in the loop of the wire and twist it so it's secure at one end of the folded wire. Then I'm going to spread apart my 2 pieces of wire, and I'm going to slide the bottom wire under my row of cut yarn so that it's placed in the center of all the yarn pieces. I take the top piece of that wire and I push it down on top in the center of the yarn pieces, so both pieces of wire are holding the yarn pieces in place. I take another discarded foam brush wood handle, and I'm going to attach that to the other end of my wire opposite the first wood handle. Then I slowly start to stretch out the wire and twist both ends using my wood handles, but each wood handle is going in the opposite direction. So the 2 wires are being twisted and the yarn is also being twisted. This is very much like how a bottle brush tree would be made, but we are using yarn instead of brush bristles. Once the wire is fully twisted, and you will know that because either the wood handle breaks off at the top or it simply won't twist any further, I remove the wood handles and I shake the tree out, trying to figure out which side should be the top of the tree and which side should be the bottom. Once I decide on the top and the bottom of the tree, I take my scissors and begin shaping the tree shape, cutting it shorter at the top and longer toward the bottom like a triangle shape. There is a lot of adjusting and trimming to be done to get that bushy yarn to resemble a tree. Just keep cutting and fluffing and cutting until it looks right to you. And then I trim the bottom of the tree so that it's even and straight around that wire tree trunk. I'm using this metal comb to gently comb through the yarn pieces and fluff the tree out even more. I really need to get a new wire dog brush for brushing out rope and yarn because the metal comb is not the best. I decided the wire tree trunk needed a little something, so I grabbed this light brown pipe cleaner, doubled it, and then tightly twisted it around the upper part of the wire tree trunk, leaving some wire exposed at the very bottom. I grabbed a small wood slice from Dollar Tree to use as a base for my tree, and I am using this USB mini drill, mainly because I have an irrational fear of power tools, don't even ask, and I make a hole in the middle of the wood slice large enough to fit my twisted wire at the bottom of the tree. I use some hot glue inside that hole to really secure the tree in place on that wood slice. I trimmed some wire off the top of the tree a little bit and then hot glued 2 wood stars to the top, covering that wire. I cut another piece of the 20 gauge wire, folded it over again in half, attaching a wood handle first to the looped end, then another wood handle on the other side, twisting it in the opposite direction of the wood handle on that first side. I grabbed this sisal rope I had in my stash. It's a little different than the jute at Dollar Tree. I'm really not sure if you can get sisal at Dollar Tree, but I'll link one for you below, and I unravel a bunch of sisal rope. Then, using the wood handle as a template for size, I cut the pieces of unraveled sisal to the same length as the wood handle, pulling the rope apart and separating it, and I continue unraveling and cutting until I have a nice pile of cut unraveled sisal. I place the cut sisal in between my two wires and spread it out, trying to keep the thickness as uniform as possible, securing the sisal so it will stay put in between the wires. Then I begin twisting both wood handles in opposite directions of each other, and I keep twisting and twisting until either the wood handles or the tops of my wires break, or I can't twist anymore, whichever comes first. Then I play around with the bushy tree a bit until I figure out which side is up and which side is down. Frankly, it's resembling Cousin It from the Addams Family right now. Let me know in the comments if you can see that too. Once I figure out the top of the tree, I begin cutting and trimming and shaping the tree so that it will resemble a tree. I did a lot of cutting and fluffing until I was really happy with the shape. I wanted my tree to have a real tree trunk, so I grabbed one of these twigs from Dollar Tree, used my clippers to slice it in half, which wasn't really half, it was more like 1/4 and 3/4, but that's okay. I'm just going to go with it. I hot glued the wire tree trunk in between the two pieces of twig so it looked like my tree had an actual wood tree trunk. I used some hot glue to attach the tree trunk to the middle of the wood slice from Dollar Tree, and off camera, I added a small wood star to the top as a tree topper. And these are my yarn and sisal bottle brush Christmas trees, and I love the rustic look of these trees, especially the sisal tree. Even though it started out looking like Cousin It, the real wood twig tree trunk, it just might be my favorite one. All in all, an easy way to make a very unique mini Christmas tree this holiday season. This next DIY is really very simple. I'm starting with a pretty long length of that yellow coated tracer wire from my basement. And again, I didn't measure it, I just eyeballed it. And to begin with, I'm wrapping it around the foam cone from Dollar Tree to make a tree shape with it. And it is pretty tall for a coiled wire tree, so it's definitely going to need some stability to hold it up. I decided to grab this wood dowel from Dollar Tree, and I will attach the top of the coiled wire to the top of the dowel with some of this 20 gauge wire that I used earlier. And unfortunately, I cut off the top part of my video, so you can't see me wrapping the wire around the top of the dowel and also the top of the coiled wire, but that is what I am doing. I also use some hot glue at the top to further stabilize the 20 gauge wire, holding the dowel and that wire tree together. Also, off camera, I grabbed this small plastic bowl from Dollar Tree. I had made a hole in the middle with my hot glue gun so that I could slide the bottom of the dowel into the hole to help stabilize the whole tree. I loaded on the hot glue inside the bowl around that dowel to help secure it. And then I hot glued some of the bottom coiled wire to the outside lip of that plastic bowl to further secure it together. The tree was still wobbly, so next I got this thin wood circle I got at Hobby Lobby, but I think you can find similar ones at Dollar Tree. And off camera, I had hot glued the bottom of the bowl to the center of the wood circle, and that made the whole tree much more stable. I took the whole tree outside and sprayed the entire thing with Rust-Oleum metallic copper spray paint, allowed it to dry overnight. Once dry, I decided I hated the way the glue that was attaching the bowl was visible, so I thought I should cover it. I used some pieces of the Christmas garland from Dollar Tree, and I wrapped that around both the edge of the bowl on the wood circle and the bottom edge of the bowl where the dowel was attached, and secured it all with some hot glue. Now, off camera, I had wrapped one set of fairy lights around the entire length of that dowel in the middle from top to bottom. You can get fairy lights at Dollar Tree, but I will also link the pack I got on Amazon for you below. After that dowel was wrapped, I used 2 more sets of fairy lights to wrap around the entire coiled wire of the tree, as you can see me doing here. And after I had wrapped one set, I then decided to use another to really make sure that tree was well lit. At the bottom of the tree, I ended up twisting the 3 little power packs of the lights together and just hiding them under something whenever they were in use. Lastly, I had this box of metal stars from Amazon, and I'll link them below. I hot glued 2 of them to the top of the tree back to camouflage the wire that attached the dowel to that coiled wire tree. And this is my faux copper pipe lighted Christmas tree, and I really like the industrial kind of feel to this tree. I love the copper color, and I think it will look beautiful in a windowsill at night. Just a lovely addition to your modernish or industrial style holiday decor. A really unique and easy to make decor piece. And as usual, I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments which one of these high-end holiday DIYs on a Dollar Tree budget was your favorite and why. I love hearing from all of you. And if you've enjoyed this DIY video, there's another one waiting for you. Just click the link on your screen for more Medicated Housewife DIYs. Also, I'd love for you to join our little crafting family and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until next time, my name is Sarah. I'm the Medicated Housewife, and crafting is my medication.